Hello, and welcome to Not an Island Podcast. This is a podcast series where we talk about faith, family, and autism. We are your hosts. I'm Todd.
I'm Amanda.
We're the Johnsons. And in today's episode, we're going to be continuing where we left off on last week's episode, which is about Ezra's story, his life, his journey,
Part 2.
and our journey. So we have so much ground to cover. So without further ado, let's get into this. So first off, we're talking about recapping a little bit of the last episode. We talked about last episode, his evaluation, COVID, big baby brother, and also there's a few things we missed. So I'm going to let you take it.
I was telling Todd, I really feel like we could talk for months about Ezra's story just because there's so much there and so much ground to cover. But one of the things that I just remembered as I was, hearing his story back that I forgot to talk about, which is a big thing, a big part of Ezra's story, is that when he got really ill at 8 months old, he had an injury to the top of the roof of his mouth and his throat. And after 8 months old, he began to have major swallow issues, which we hadn't had before. Predominantly with more like solids. Like he still was great with his milk and water and things like that. He wasn't drinking water at the time, but all of his purees, he started to struggle to swallow, and he began to like vomit all of them anytime I would try. And so we went from before he got sick, being able to eat a little bit, to really nothing. I think he was on formula until nearly 2 years old.
Yeah.
And we just bits and pieces of things we started to get him to eat. And when he started therapy, one of the biggest things that the occupational therapist was working on with him was feeding therapy and helping him, learn to swallow. Also, helping with his sensory aversions, because he had a very short list of things he would even try. But that mixed with his allergies, there wasn't a ton of options for him. But she actually told me at the time something that I was clueless to, that the same muscles that you use to eat are the same muscles that you use to talk. And Ezra's muscles were underdeveloped in his mouth and throat and tongue because of the swallow issue. And so, so that was a big part of, his speech delay was that his muscles were having a hard time actually like being able to form the words.
Yeah.
So
we dealt with that for a few years, and it was pretty rough, but he's come a long way, which brings me to my next point, which is the in between then and now, everything that we as a family have gone through together to support him. And so we're going to talk about growth and regressions and meltdowns and all that.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's important to touch on as well, like we were talking about his feeding and swallowing. He had a tonsillectomy about a year ago as one of the parts of his journey. And up until that point, we still gagged and choked almost daily.
Yeah.
It would cause him to vomit. And he already had those feeding issues and swallow issues and everything else, but his tonsils were huge and infected and causing him a lot of problems, causing him to be very ill. He, from the point Ezra was born until the tonsils were out, I think it was like every time the wind blew, it felt like we were dealing with another illness, which was not easy. But I don't, not that I'm trying to like, yes, get your kids' tonsils ripped out. But it took us a really long time to like first find out what was going on. Second, actually follow through with having a procedure like that, because that's really scary with a child who can't communicate to you. And it was really scary, and it was very traumatic, and it was very hard. He ended up hospitalized after it. And it's not something you want to relive, but at the same time, he's been well now after having it for nearly a year. He's chronic ear infections. A lot of the things we were dealing with have stopped. And so, Yeah, it's worth checking into all of those things if your child is having similar issues, for sure.
For sure, yeah, and that ties into his growth. He's had a lot of mental growth,
Yes.
but he's also had a lot of regressions, and so um, it's been a lot of times I feel like we take one step forward and two steps back. But
Yeah.
truth be told, it's all part of the growing process, and so we're actually curious if you, as a family, if you're on YouTube right now and you're watching, we'd love to hear from you. Put in a comment down below and let us know um, what growth and regressions have looked like for you as a
Yeah.
family. We love to hear it and
Yeah.
just be able to have that community and talk back and
I
forth.
think it's something that's not touched on as much, or something I haven't heard about as much, because a lot of people talk about, and it's also a part of our story, a major regression.
Yeah.
And we did experience that. It was massive, and it was like nearly overnight, and it was like huge. But then throughout the years, we'd make a lot of ground and we'd work really hard, and boom, it's like one day a illness would hit or something would hit, and here we are, 10 steps back, and we've lost the 10 words we had again. And,
Mm-hmm.
it was very much baby steps, and feeling like you get hit by something and pushed back. And I can't even imagine what it had to feel like for Ezra, because he was working so hard,
Mm-hmm.
and then,
Would hit regressions, but in
yeah,
the long game, he's made so much ground that the
yeah,
regressions look mild compared to what growth he's had. So,
yeah,
but one thing that has really helped him socially big time is public school.
yeah,
He started public school back in kindergarten, about a year and a half ago now, and he's made a lot of friends in school. He's made a lot of connections in school,
for sure.
and really so have we. We've made a lot of connections with some friends, many dear friends who are parents to a child with
Yeah.
autism as well.
I genuinely never thought that we'd send our children to public school. That just wasn't what I had planned.
Yeah,
But with Ezra, things were so different. And, we had been in therapy for all the years, working as hard as we were. And I actually think it was one of the therapists that first mentioned it to me. And she was like, Amanda, you really need to think about public school. And there's a program that starts much younger
yeah, for sure.
than kindergarten, even. Like Ezra could have been in school, I think, 2 years before pre-K 3, he could have started. I wasn't ready for that. But I really began to pray about it, because I was just so nervous for him to go and to not be able to come back and tell us what had happened to him that day, or
Yeah,
encounters that he had had. It was a huge fear in my heart, and I really feel like God just started to address that fear, and I had been praying about it, and I was invited to a women's conference. I think it was that spring
hmm,
before school was going to start. And one of the ladies that was there actually was formerly a teacher at the school that we were going to, be enrolling Ezra in. And she was like, you have to meet my friend who is the assistant principal at the school he was starting at, the Early Childhood Center. And meeting her was just like the confirmation that I needed, that one, we were doing the right thing, but two, she informed me, look, all of the major decisions that we make, I'm on his team for that.
yeah,
So it was like a familiar face. Even if you have to go into your school and say, hey, I just want to meet the principal, I want to meet someone there. That connection and knowing, okay, I've got somebody with my child's best interests at heart who's there, boots on the ground with them, that really helped us, I think, be able to release Ezra. It was still hard, and I still
hmm,
cried a lot
yeah. It was
when
difficult for
we
sure.
had to send him. You didn't cry, but I was like,
Oh, yeah, he was a trooper. But with that being said, he has absolutely blown us away.
yeah,
Especially this past few months, he's been in a new class in the first grade, but this kid has blown us
yeah,
away. Just the things that he's capable of and the things that he can do.
for sure.
Um, we're going to be talking about that in a few episodes from now.
Yeah,
3 different ways that we um, maybe underestimated him as parents.
hundred
And
percent.
that's one of them. You see your child every day, and you see just everything that he goes through or he or she goes through. And sometimes you don't see the forest for the trees. You don't realize that that kid is capable of so much more than you could ever even give him credit for as a
Yeah.
parent. Um, and that's exactly our situation. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think what our expectation, I know mine was like, oh, he needs this socially. And we knew that the routine would be helpful, but we had no idea that like what would begin to come out academically. And
Yeah.
that's been so amazing to witness.
Yeah. Which brings us to our third point, which is where we are now. So he's in the first grade now.
Yeah.
We as a family are pushing right along. His baby brother is 2 years old and his best friend and worst enemy at the same time. Um, but yeah, I mean, Ezra has made a lot of friends from school,
Yeah.
and we've also really had the honor and the privilege of being a part of this group
Hmm.
that is funded currently through the state that we live in. And what it is it is a service for school age children
Yeah.
in public schools who have autism. And I'm telling you, it's awesome. Like once a month, we get together and we have like a family night. And then last summer, they had a full 6 week
Yeah. Program, a
program, day
summer
school
program.
kind of thing.
It was
Oh
Ezra
man.
loved it. He begs to go back and actually right now they've been fighting for a grant.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. You know, they're doing everything they can to help service the children in our area that are honestly very underserviced.
Yeah. For
And they're
sure.
doing the most incredible things. And yeah, like Todd said, we feel so honored and privileged to get to be a part of something like that. That's bringing families together. We've met a lot of families through that. We've gotten close to people who work within the school system, who are a part of it, who advocate for us and who are boots on the ground for us.
Yeah.
So it's huge. I
Yeah.
wish every school, like
Yeah.
every public school
And
system had something like it.
truth be told, every person, I'm pretty sure every person on their staff that does this, they're all full time teachers, administrators in the public
Yes.
school system, public education system in our area. So they do this genuinely out of the goodness of their
Yes.
heart.
Yeah.
That's it. They could be
100%.
anywhere else doing anything else with their own time, which is very valuable. And instead, they choose to reinvest that into children
Yeah.
and families.
I think the most incredible thing about them is most of them have their own journey and their own
Yeah.
story with a child, maybe not with autism, but with special needs.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have children with special needs or even teenagers with special needs at home and they're still,
Mhm.
going as hard as they are for our children, it makes
Yeah.
such a
So
difference. Yeah.
shout out. This program is called
Shout out.
Aspire. It's called Aspire.
Yes.
And
when we do our school episode, we should go more in depth
yeah,
with them
yeah.
for
Maybe
sure.
we could
'Cause,
have
man,
someone on from Aspire. Who knows? But
we could talk forever about
I'm
them.
telling you, what I'm getting at with this is his social growth in the school system,
Yeah.
coupled with his social growth at Aspire, has just made all the difference.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of friends. Of course, that helps. We have play dates and things.
Yeah.
But
Actually, one of the first day of school, of kindergarten, we met a couple who love the Lord very deeply. And their son was starting his first year in that class as well. And they've become very good friends and we've become really good friends. And it's like, had we not stepped out and given the school system a chance, we wouldn't have,
made so many friends.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have made so many friends. That's the thing. Like we could make all the friends we want to, but this is really, it's about him. It's about these kids. And so those programs, they wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have chose to go the public school
Right.
route. So for you moms out there, you dads out there who are against public school, we totally get it. Our heart was right there with you for the longest, but in our particular case, we just felt a very strong urge and a pull.
And you never
to go
know.
this route.
This may be a season, and there may be a season
Yeah.
where we do homeschool. Our hearts and minds are so open now. I think thought everything had to go a certain direction, and now we're just like, we have to kind of go with the flow. And our hearts, we would love to live in a place that had a specialized school,
Yeah.
but that's just not the cards
That's
that
not the
were
cards, yeah.
given.
But one more thing that isn't on our notes, one more thing that has really helped, and I could go on and on about, and maybe we could have this person on for an episode as well. But there is a therapy program in our area. It
Yes.
is equestrian therapy, horse riding therapy for children
Oh,
on the
yeah.
spectrum and
Yes.
children with special needs. It helps their core muscles, helps their socialization. It helps a lot with these children. And
Hmm.
Ezra's part of that. And let me tell you, like,
And that all happened through the school
that'll
system.
happen through the school
Yeah.
system.
They were
So,
taking the children twice a month to the ranch that's literally right up the road from where we live, and giving them that opportunity to experience that, which is just huge.
yeah, it's massive.
And
So,
it's been a huge thing for Ezra. And now he's in therapy, like independently, not through the school. I take him. He just started back
yeah.
and he loves it. And I don't know, a lot of your children probably have similar kind of things, but Ezra has a lot of tightness in his hips, and he has had low muscle tone, gross motor delays and fine motor delays. But with those gross motor delays and tightness in his hips, and he has a really severe toe in. And riding the horse, the warmth of the horse, the way that he's seated, it's working core muscles. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's making those muscles start to push that foot outward a little more, which is really awesome. There's so many awesome things, and we'll have an episode
I know, because we could
about
talk
this,
about
if
the
not with the
people.
person that runs this.
We
So,
could talk about the people there for so
it's
long too,
amazing.
because they're
But
incredible.
regardless, that's been his growth. That's been
Yeah.
kind of this past year for us. But let's talk about some of the struggles and some of the obsessions he has
Yeah,
as of now.
I just wanted to share one other thing about school, and that is, I just wanted to share an example of something like that was huge to me. Ezra's starting school and the socialization, the routine. One of the things he's doing at school is eating in the cafeteria,
Yeah.
where it's loud and overwhelming. And typically in situations like that, Ezra can't eat.
Mhm.
And he can't stay still. Every major event or anything with family, like family dinners and stuff, Thanksgiving, Christmas, he was just so running around. And last year, for the first year ever, he sat and ate Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner with the whole family.
Yeah.
And I feel like,
Yeah,
I
with
know
our
that's
family.
something, it seems like something small, but it was so huge to see him do that. And I have no doubt that him being in school and being in those settings and being challenged in that way is why he was able to do
Well,
that.
it meant a lot, not only to him, which is the biggest part of this, but it meant a lot to everyone else as well, to be able to see him
Yeah.
partake in like the family dynamic, as well as like, I don't know, just get to be loved by everyone and
Yeah.
love back. Like, it was a big deal,
It was
especially
super
for a
cool.
6-year-old child. Well, yeah, 6 at the time. No, he was
He
5.
was 5
He
last
was
year.
still 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, so struggles and obsessions, something that obviously as an autism parent, you, I'm sure, deal with all the time. We deal with it all the time ourselves. But some of his struggles right now, he has, they've gotten a lot better lately through the past year as well. But his struggles, a lot of his struggles revolve around something he's hyperfixated on.
Yeah, that's I think the hardest thing that we're currently dealing with Ezra, because hyperfixation can be a really good thing. But for Ezra, it's like almost like a prison sometimes,
at
because
times.
he can't,
He can't put his jeans on without having his toy ambulance in his hand. And
that's not so much, just when you're trying to communicate with him and he is on like a loop, he just goes through kind of, I don't know, that's the best way now to describe it. It's like he's stuck on a loop and he can't get out of it. And it may be that he's talking about whatever is
whatever random thing.
he
is
has
on
a
his
lot
mind
of
at the time.
obsessions. I think we could do a whole episode on
Yeah,
obsessions, honestly.
Yeah. But regardless, even through those obsessions, we see this growth he's making. We
Yeah.
see all the work that's being put in, not only by other people, but we see him putting in work.
Yeah.
Last night, he sat down and wanted to read a book. And so,
Yeah.
he doesn't know how to read. And so I'm helping him. I'm working with him. And you can see he's legitimately trying. Like, he's trying so hard. He
Yes.
wants to learn. And so um, that's where we are now. And it's just been a
Well,
really
and
awesome
I
time.
think what you're even saying in that is that like the obsessions, even though they can be a trap and almost a prison, they're also like fuel. Like his obsessions are what has caused him to want to read,
Yeah.
certain books.
Yeah, it's
His
true.
obsessions are what has caused him to want to draw
Yeah.
and want to write, want to learn to write certain words. He, even though those things he's obsessing over, like, are sometimes the thing that's like holding him back, they're also like what's pushing him to thrive in other areas. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of a complicated thing, but it's like if he's having positive productivity sometimes, and then other times it's like, okay, buddy, we got to get out of this loop so we can just do basic
Yeah.
tasks. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
of course, communication is always a struggle,
Mhm.
even now. Uh, but we'll keep you updated. We'll keep everyone updated with our
Yeah.
progress as we
We'd
go.
love to share some of his
Yeah.
obsessions because they've
Yeah.
changed throughout the years, and then kind of we go back to some of them, but he has a lot
You
currently.
know what? Another comment you can throw in here down below if you're on YouTube. What are your child's obsessions, or what is the
Hyperfixations. Yeah.
hyperfixations that you deal with as a family? How do you deal with them? How do you find ways, whether it's redirection, or whatever you use? We'd love to
Yes.
hear. We're all ears, and we'd like to
Yes.
just find out how you guys do this. So, recapping, we this is part 2. We talked about part 1 last episode.
Yeah.
This episode we talked about part 2 of Ezra's life, and we covered a
Yeah.
lot, abbreviated version, but we did cover a lot. Um, and yeah, we really want you guys to be able to come away from this knowing that autism is a journey as a family. Like it's not something you have to fight against. For us, we've learned it's something that you can embrace, and you can take the good with the bad and still see that God is in it all.
Yeah.
Like He's in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's been this episode. Also, listen, if you are on YouTube right now and you're watching, please, please, please subscribe, hit the bell so that you can stay up to date with our stuff. And if you are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, maybe, whatever, anywhere you're at, be sure to follow us.
Yeah.
Hit the button to follow us and leave a review. That helps us to be able to get this message out, because really this message is all about advocacy. It's all about hope. It's all about love and supporting these families. So help us out. Help us get this message out there. And yeah, I mean, it means a ton to us. And we know there's a ton of other families out there
For sure.
who could hear this message of hope and acceptance and faith. So you want to pray us out?
Yeah. Let's go. Jesus, we thank you for Ezra's story and for his journey. And we thank you, Lord, that it's just the beginning. We thank you that everything he's walked through, even up to this point, we just give you glory that he's able to encourage other parents out there, that his life is able to encourage other peers of his, that nothing is impossible with you. And so I just thank you for every person listening today. And I pray that they've been so encouraged by all the things that we've said and talked about, and that maybe there's some things that they can really relate to, or some things that they thought, man, I thought I was the only one going through that. Lord, I just pray you comfort them right where they are and let them know that they're not alone. We love you. We honor you. We give you the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. We are the Johnsons. I'm Todd.
I'm Amanda.
And thank you for listening. And until next time, we'll see y'all later.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.